Well, good evening, everyone. Happy Wednesday, week 10 of this very unusual time. I hope you had a great day. I've just been thinking about all the things that have happened these last 3 months. And it's 2 weeks and a day since my dad died. And yesterday I literally went through 1,000 pictures. And I found some that were just so cool. In fact, my baby picture, which I was a cute baby. Didn't really appreciate it at the time, but pictures of my mom, pictures of my dad. And then I'm like, all of a sudden you like turn over a piece of paper and there's my dad at the mortuary. And I probably thought about it like 60 times. And it's unsettling to sort of know he's there and then he's not. But then I came to really love that picture because he looks peaceful and sort of looks asleep. And when I get upset, or when my patients get upset, I learn this from people who do therapeutic treatment called EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it really wasn't the eye movement that was special. I mean, what they do is they have you bring up traumatic events, like seeing my dad dead on the floor. And initially, they got your eyes to go back and forth while you had the memory. And yes, you would feel it. But then afterwards, it would begin to lose the emotional charge attached to it. It's really powerful therapy. But then they realized it wasn't so much the eye movement, it was the alternate hemisphere stimulation. And so sometimes they would do tapping. Or what I have found is if you just grab your shoulders and rub down while you have the memory, it just begins to take the emotional charge away. Excuse me. And initially, when it was upsetting to me, I did that, and something switched in my brain to, rather than it being a bad image or a stressful image, it turned into a peaceful image. Because my initial thought was, you need to shred that. But then my next thought was, don't shred it. I mean, you don't have to like put it on the wall. That would not be good. But put it where you could look at it. Just as a connection. Because around my house, I have all sorts of pictures of my dad. I mean, like on my nightstand by my bed. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. What I want to do is just talk about the process of grief and share mine, but also share strategies on how to deal with it. I had an opportunity yesterday that was really fun for me. I did an interview with Colonel Oliver North. So yes, that colonel. And I love him. and he told the world that he came to see me for traumatic brain injury. And I did his podcast on heroes. And it was so fun. And he'd heard me talk, and he said, I just have to know, what is a global amygdala hijacking? Because that's what's happened around the world. Our amygdala has been hijacked, and not just by the virus, by our reaction to the virus. So the amygdala is this very interesting structure in your brain. I have a brain here somewhere, besides the one in my head. And here, if we look underneath the brain, these front part is at the top, back part is called the cerebellum. These are the temporal lobes, and deep in the temporal lobes is this almond-shaped structure, and it's called the amygdala. And it responds to fear. And do you ever wonder, and I talked about this with Colonel North, why some soldiers, when the firefight starts, they don't get afraid, they get focused, while other soldiers just fall apart? Or have you ever seen the documentary Free Solo? It's awesome. Well, how can you be on Half Dome, climbing the face of Half Dome, and not be completely freaked out? And so what researchers have discovered is if your amygdala is active, you tend to run away from fires and firefights. But if it's lower than normal, you could run toward the fire. And so there's actually a biology to firefighters and paramedics and people who are calm in crazy situations. Now, there are other people, and I think without my training, I would be the other group, because if there's a fire, my tendency is to run away from it because my brain is going, it's hot. I'm very good at predicting the worst. Now, I've worked on that, and over time, I'm better, but I think my amygdala is just sort of naturally heightened. I actually looked at my own MRI. It's in the 63rd percentile. So it's busier, bigger actually, than 63% of the population. So it's not, I have one patient, 99 percentile, and she has a very high startle response. So global, pandemic is global, it's happening all over the world. Amygdala, your fear center, has been hijacked in large part because whenever you turn on the news or you open Fox or CNN or MSNBC or whatever news site, they're leading with fear stories. Whatever bleeds, leads. So they're leading with stories that make you afraid. And our amygdala has just been hijacked. I don't know if you've seen the news, but the orders that demand people stay at home and shelter in place, more people got COVID from sheltering in place in New York than anywhere else. Now, I'm a fan of physical distancing, not social distancing, because we need to be socially connected. It's why I do this. But the news and some of our governments have just scared the socks off the population, and they've hijacked our amygdala. And Colonel North, when he asked me to be on the podcast, he said, if you can explain why people hoard toilet paper, I have to talk to you. And I'm like, global amygdala hijacking. We're going to be without toilet paper and the world will come to an end. It's because they've hijacked your amygdala. So 4 strategies to calm your amygdala, calm your anxiety. And number 1 is breathing. And it's this pattern I've taught you a couple of times. It's 3 seconds in, take a deep breath, hold it for a second. 6 seconds out. So I love this question about OCD with intrusive thoughts. Pay attention. Breathing first. So whenever you feel anxious, and you probably should do this actually a couple of times a day. And it takes like less than 2 minutes. 3 seconds in, hold it for a second. 6 seconds out, hold it for a second. So I want you to take twice as long to exhale as you inhale. That actually will trigger a relaxation response in your body. Well, that's not hard. Do it 10 times. 1 minute and 50 seconds. Second thing. So practice that breathing pattern. Second thing. Don't leave a situation that makes you anxious unless it's dangerous. Because if you do, then the situation will begin to control your life. I treat a number of patients who have agoraphobia, fear of the marketplace. They haven't left their home in 10 years. And what we're doing now with the shelter in place and the global amygdala hijacking is we're going to 100-fold people who have agoraphobia because they're just going to be afraid of everything. And I don't know if you saw it today that the CDC actually said people really aren't getting COVID-19 from packages. Yes, be thoughtful, be careful. When I go to the grocery store, I wear gloves. But you don't have to wipe down everything. What I do when packages are delivered at home, I just put them in the garage for 3 days. And then wash my hands, and 3 days later I open up everything. But the CDC is now saying that's probably not necessary. So if the situation makes you anxious, don't leave, because then it will control you. Unless, of course, you're walking in a bad part of town at 2 o'clock in the morning. Don't do that, because that's stupid. Third thing, whenever you feel sad or mad or nervous or out of control, write down what you're thinking. Write it down, and then ask yourself if it's true. If you absolutely know that it's true, and, let's take a grief thought. So one might be, I didn't do everything I could for my dad. I'm so amazed that when grief hits my patients, they go to incriminating themselves. And it's generally not helpful. But I was in charge of his medical care in COVID. And so if that comes in my mind, write it down. 5 questions. is it true? And when you're grieving, you might go, I didn't do everything. A more rational response is, I don't know. Because we could always do more. The second question is it absolutely true? With 100% certainty, I didn't do everything I could. And the answer is no, because I thought about him so many times every day, doing the right thing. The day he died, I was on my way to pick him up to go to the pulmonologist to try to figure out why I had this chronic cough. The third question, which is the hard question, is, well, how does that thought, you didn't do everything you could, make you feel? And then, it's like sad and mad and anxious and like a terrible son and depressed. Negative thoughts drive negative feelings, which then drive negative behaviors. And the way to get rid of that cycle is to challenge the negative thoughts. And the fourth question is, who would you be or how would you feel if you didn't have that thought? If you couldn't have that thought? I'd still be sad I lost my dad. But I would be so happy because we were so close to each other in the last 5 years of his life. And so honor the sadness, but not beat yourself up over it. And then the fifth thought, and I love this part of the process. So first question, is it true? Second, can you absolutely know if it's true with 100% certainty? Third question is, how does thought make you feel, which is why negative thoughts drive negative feelings and negative behaviors. Fourth question is, how would I feel if I didn't have the thought? And the fifth question is, turn the thought to the opposite. I love that. I did everything I could. And then just ask yourself, is the opposite of the original thought that's torturing you true? Or maybe even truer than the original thought. And I did everything I could. Well, I did a heck of a lot. And I feel good about that. And he was 90. And he predicted his own death 20 years ago. And he said, when I die, I'm just going to go. It's not going to be a fuss or a mess. I'm just going to go. And that's what happened. He was fine in the morning and just stopped breathing, and that was it. So I think most of us would pray for a death like his. But those 5 questions are so important. So breathing, not leaving unless it's really dangerous, question your thoughts, so important. And then supplements can also help. When the pandemic started, and 250 team members, our employees at Amen Clinics and BrainMD have clinics all around the country. BrainMD got flooded with orders, especially for our immunity products, and we ran out of stuff, and I'm like, I started taking Happy Saffron because saffron has been shown to support mood. It's also been shown to support memory and healthy weight and blood sugar. And so I make sure every day I take my supplements. I added Happy Saffron, and it just helps keep me balanced. And for anxiety, Happy Saffron is good. We also have GABA calming, and I'm a fan of magnesium. In my book, The End of Mental Illness, there's actually a whole chapter on mind medicine versus nutraceuticals. And what does the science say? because I would never take Xanax or Klonopin, because I know once I start them, I'm not going to want to stop them. And it's all been so important, and I'm grateful for my training and for my patience over the years. We're going to get Happy Saffron. Oh, I heard, see, it's out. Yeah, I know. We've been selling the heck out of it. I think it's to be back the end of the week, early next week. I'm so grateful to my patients, because by being able to help them over the last 40 years, when I need these strategies, I have them. And I love being able to give them to you. So don't let society cause you to have a global amygdala hijacking. You can take control, calm your amygdala, breathing, not leaving, correcting your negative thoughts, simple supplements, meditation, hypnosis, all of those things will help you. I hope you have an awesome night. We'll talk again soon. Take care.